Greetings,
everybody.
Greetings. Greetings. The atom is a basic unit of matter that consists of a dense, central nucleus surrounded by a cloud of negatively charged electrons. The atomic nucleus contains a mix of positively charged protons and electrically neutral neutrons, except in the case of hydrogen-1,
which is the only stable nuclide with no neutrons. The electrons of an atom are bound to the nucleus by the electromagnetic force. Likewise, a group of atoms can remain bound to each other, forming a molecule.
An atom containing an equal number of otherwise it has a positive charge electron deficiency or negative charge electron excess and is an ion.
An atom is classified according to
protons and neutrons in its nucleus. The number of protons determines the chemical element, and the number of neutrons determines the isotope of the element.
The name atom comes from the Greek
almost from un plus, temo, to cut to, which means uncuttable, or indivisible, something that cannot be divided further.
3. The concept of an atom as an indivisible component of matter was first proposed by early Indian and Greek philosophers.
In the 17th and 18th centuries,
chemists provided a physical basis for this idea by showing that certain substances could not be further broken down by chemical methods. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries,
physicists
discovered subatomic
components and structure inside the atom,
thereby demonstrating that the atom was divisible.
The principles of quantum mechanics were used to successfully model the atom.
Atoms are minuscule objects with proportionately tiny masses. Atoms can only be observed individually using special instruments such as the scanning tunneling microscope. Over 99.9% of an atom's mass is concentrated in the nucleus, with protons and neutrons having roughly equal mass. Each element has at least one isotope with unstable nuclei that can undergo radioactive decay. This can result in a transmutation that changes the number of protons or neutrons in a nucleus. 6 electrons that are bound to atoms possess a set of stable energy levels and can undergo transitions between them by absorbing or emitting photons that match the energy differences between the levels.
The electrons determine the chemical properties of an element and strongly influence an atom's magnetic properties.
The concept that matter is composed of discrete units and cannot be divided into arbitrarily tiny quantities has been around for millennia, but these ideas were founded in abstract, philosophical reasoning rather than experimentation and empirical observation. The nature of atoms in philosophy varied considerably over time and between cultures and schools, and often had spiritual elements. Nevertheless, the basic idea of the atom was adopted by scientists thousands of years later because it elegantly explained new discoveries
in the field of chemistry. 7 references to the concept of atoms date back to ancient Greece and India. The Jvaika, Jain, and CRV college schools of atomism may date back to the 6th century BCE.
The Nyaya and Vaisheshika schools later developed theories on how atoms combined into more complex objects.
The references to atoms emerged in the 5th century BC with Leucippus, whose student, Democritus, systematized his views. Democritus coined the term omos Greek, which means uncuttable or the smallest indivisible particle of matter.
Although the Indian and Greek concepts of the atom were based purely on philosophy, modern science has retained the name coined by Democritus 7 corpuscularianism as the postulate, expounded in the 13th century by the alchemist Pseudo-Geber 10, sometimes identified with Paul of Taranto, that all physical bodies possess an inner and outer layer of minute particles or corpuscles.
Corpuscles could in principle be divided. In this manner, for example, it was theorized that mercury could penetrate into metals and modify their inner structure. 12 corpuscularianism stayed a dominant theory over the next several hundred years. In 1661, natural philosopher Robert Boyle
published the
the
Sceptical Chymist, in which he argued that matter was composed of various combinations of different corpuscles or atoms,
rather than the classical elements of air, earth, fire and water. 13. During the 1670s, corpuscularianism was used by Isaac Newton in his development of the corpuscular theory of light.
The atom is a basic unit of matter that consists of a dense, central nucleus surrounded by a cloud of negatively charged electrons. The atomic nucleus contains a mix of positively charged protons and electrically neutral neutrons, except in the case of hydrogen 1, which is the only stable nuclide with no neutrons.